Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the morning briefing right here on Friedman Adventures on this absolutely gloriously beautiful Friday morning. Well, we've got Albacore up in Northern California. Will it slide into SoCal? Who knows? I'm not giving up the ship quite yet. Kelping down in San Diego and Northern Baja is phenomenal. In fact, there's dorado and yellowfin tuna all the way down the Baja Peninsula and even further south of that. Catalina Island, lots of bluefin, but are they biting? Not so much, but they're there. And we also see more yellowtail flushing up the Southern California coast, which suggests to me a really good fall is in our future. Good morning, everybody. It is absolutely beautiful. I hope you get time to get down to the beach, or more importantly, get out on the water and catch some fish, because it's a gorgeous time of the year. And as we move into the fall, and I know I'm jumping way ahead, that's going to be late August, September. When we do get into that time period, that's when we get our best weather months in Southern California. Usually there's a lack of wind, it's gorgeous, the water's warm, and you've had all that fish push up, and those are spectacular times to fish. I love September, October, even into November, where we have some great weather days. So we've got a great future out there awaiting us all, and it looks really good. All right, let me take you down to Ensenada, where we are seeing some really outstanding fishing going on in terms of the bluefin tuna. The pongeros down there are out trolling around with their Mad Mac lures, and they're coming up with good catches of bluefin. There are some misses down there. Of course, it's fishing, not catching, as the old saying goes, but there still remain some really good catches also. In addition to that, guys like Arnie and Blackfin and Mara's down there are all focusing their attention on kelp paddies, where they are finding nice big yellowtail. I mean, a lot of 8 to 15 pound yellowtail in the kelps, and that is a superior grade of yellowtail. No question about it. There's more dorado, and they're starting to bite with greater frequency. We've been looking at those dorado for a month now, and they're finally starting to bite a little bit better. Still, it's a spectator sport. You see all these dorado, you roll up on a kelp. And I mean, here off Dana, I mean, Jeff Markland got into them on the Thunderbird. We've had fish out of Dana War sport fishing. There's a lot around, but you see so much more than you catch. And many guys have had to drop down to like 12 pound mono. They had to do that the other day on the Helena out of Dana War sport fishing to get a handful of dorado. And when you're doing that, of course, the casualty rate is going to go way up. Fishing the lighter line was the only way to get a bite, so my hat's off to those guys for doing it, but it's hard to hang on to them in some cases. So that is the scenario we have, and I'm telling you, it's really good as we look up and down the coast. So Baja and the pongeros still with some great fishing. I think their future is probably even greater, because that yellowfin tuna continues to move up the Baja coast into the Ensenada area, and even up into SoCal now. We're starting to see some of that. It has yet to turn on and bite. Got to think that it's a fall kind of thing, or I'm hoping the switch goes on at any time here as we continue to watch it. By the way, Malihini redemption trip for us. It is August the 19th. If you'd like to jump on with us, go into the show description. In fact, we've got all our charters there. So we have the Malihini, just click on the link and then you can book there. And then we have our next and final Amigo trip. That's August the 31st, fall trip. I love it. 2 days on the Amigo out of 22nd Street. I think 4 openings on that one. And then the Pride, you know how hot they have been this year out of 22nd Street Landing. They have been doing so good on just a variety of different species. So we are looking forward to those 2 trips. And you can see them there. If you book before the middle of August, I think it is, you can save yourself some bucks and fish on the Pride. So there we have it. Now, let me take you down to the kelps and the San Diego boys, because they just keep hammering out great catches on the kelps with that variety of fish. And that's part of the fun of it. When you roll up on a kelp, you don't know if it's going to be this nice grade yellowtail. You don't know if it's going to be the smaller yellowtail. You don't know if it's going to be dorado, yellowfin, or bluefin. The variety adds to the whole thing when you're fishing these kelps in northern Baja, and some of it on this side of the border, quite a bit of it on the United States side of the border also. You definitely want to have some 25 to 40 pound fluorocarbon. That will make your life complete take my word for it. Fluoro works well. You can't just do that though. You have to choose a really good hot bait. And then if that bait, for whatever reason, doesn't get bit, change it. And that'll make all the difference in the world for you. 1/0 to 2/0 size hooks and a fly line bait works really well. And the grade of bluefin, we still see that big stuff, so you still want to bring your heavy stuff. You know, bring some Daiwa 2-speed stuff with 100-pound on it. It will help you to realize your dream in case you get into that big fish like we did on the Malihini the other day. I think we hooked about 6 fish. We couldn't slow down any of them, lost them all, straightened hooks, popped off fish. It was really an impressive show, but we just could not hold on to those things. So back to the kelps. You can also fish a surface iron. Tatties are great. I love them. Cold snipers. Daiwa Sakana lures have been working phenomenally well on the kelp. So you can get up in the bow, and before anybody has even chosen a bait, you're bit up there because you've had your iron on that kelp first. Let it sink. Don't get too impatient and wind it across the surface. Remember, when you're looking at a body of fish many, many, many times, it's literally the tip of the iceberg. It's like 10% of the actual body of fish present. So let your jig sink down and then wind on it. You can play around with that. Sometimes you can wind it across the surface and get a bite immediately. And that's a lot of fun also, seeing that big blowout. So really good fishing. Let me give you a few examples. Daiwa Pacific limits a yellowtail down there. Dorado, yellowfin tuna. Mustang limits a yellowtail. And then turning our attention to those 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. boats, San Diego has been on fire out of C4 sport fishing. They continue to hammer out great catches. 98 yellowtail and 3 dorado. How can you beat that? So some really good fishing going on down in that neck of the woods. Now, let me take you up and start to talk to you a little bit about the island situation. Todos Santos, they're off Ensenada. Good barracuda still. More bonita have pushed in there, and a few yellowtail. Good calico bass fishing. Sometimes the bait there in Ensenada is not the best because most of it goes to the tuna pens to feed those tuna, but if you take Lucky Craft lures or a similar kind of hard bait like that, that can really, really work well on those fish, catching nice calicos. And also around the tuna pens, we are seeing some really good yellowtail and big bonita fishing going on there. Moving up, Coronado Island, still some good yellowtail fishing there. There's been a few misses. Conditions have vacillated from very, very poor to very, very good, but right now they are pretty good. So there's barracuda, calico bass, yellowtail, and bottom fish if you want that. And there's also a bunch of triggerfish all over the Coronado Islands, which guys get into occasionally. Moving up to San Clemente Island, quite a bit of yellowtail there. You got to wrestle the sea lions. It can be a pain in the neck. Same thing with that fluorocarbon. By the way, that's www.opsonusa.com. Put in FA at checkout, and you'll get a free gift and a handwritten note from my friend Greg Brown. But you do have to wrestle those sea lions, but choosing a good hot bait, doing all of that will definitely help you out. And there's some good calico bass fishing at San Clemente Island if you want to focus on that also going on right now. So decent bass fishing, okay yellowtail fishing, nothing to write home about. But as I say, talking about the offshore, there's more kelps that are starting to hold yellowtail and dorado in the Orange County and LA Orange County area. So that is also really, really good news. High hopes that that's going to continue, and there is no reason why it will not. Looking at Catalina Island, there's okay bass fishing and bonita fishing and barracuda fishing, kind of scratching at all those species. You get a shot at the yellowtail here and there. Not wide open, but decent, gorgeous weather at Cat right now. I mean, I can see here today how beautiful it is, and Catalina's right back there. So it should be another lovely day. So you get some action there, a lot of short calico bass and fish like that. Enterprise with that mix of bonita, barracuda, calico bass. Victory hit the sculpin grounds before going to Catalina Island. Same thing, a little mix on the 3Bs. Sport King had a nice sea bass and bonita and calico bass. Native Son, bonita, bass, few barracuda over there. Not wide open, but a good pick, steady action, gorgeous weather, and there is still a chance to look at bluefin tuna. I say look at because you hook a few and you mostly lose them because they're big, the ones that are zooming around Cat. There's some smaller grade also, 20 to 40 pound, but trying to hang on to those things is really, really difficult. So a butt hook bait will normally swim away from the boat a lot better. So choose a good hot bait, use the fluorocarbon, butt hook bait. Remember, just spool back a little bit or put it in gear, take a wind, and that bait will take off. And most of the time it will head out away from the boat, and that's the only way you're gonna get a bite on those bluefin tuna. So keep that in mind. Santa Barbara, San Nicolas Island, we've had some wind. It's subsiding now. That's great news. Should we get back to some good sea bass fishing in that neck of the woods. I know it's getting late, but there's still a good chance at halibut and white sea bass in this La Nina mostly condition that we have. And a lot of you are saying, La Nina, isn't that cold water? Which, yes, it is. What are we catching? Dorado and Yellowtail. Well, sometimes we'll get this anomaly where you have warm water along the coast and still cooler water offshore. Is the exact reason we're still holding out hope for Albacore offshore here, because there is cooler water out there, and that's what Albacore prefer. There's anchovy. There's all of those hallmarks of a La Nina situation continuing to brew. And combined with that, we've got this warm water bringing in yellowfin and dorado and yellowtail and some marlin. I mean, that is great stuff. It's a perfect scenario. We've seen it before in San Diego and in the LA Orange County area. And I'm telling you, I just am so high on the fall. There's so much yellowtail pushing up here. Hopefully some of it's going to take residence at Cat and all the islands here, Santa Barbara and Clemente. I've got my sneaking suspicion that is exactly what's going to happen. Up there in the Channel Islands have been dealing with some wind, but that is subsiding again. Hopefully we're going to get to a point where the wind is just out of the picture, but it has been a breezy 2022. No question about that. On the Aloha Spirit, Luke Fitzpatrick with a nice white sea bass. Congratulations, Luke, on a phenomenal catch. Guys up there are still getting sea bass. Some of those guys are sneaking off and doing their things. Endeavor, Mirage, some of those guys have had some pretty decent sea bass fishing here recently, but it is getting a little bit later. Now, I always have the rockfish to fall back on up there in that neck of the woods. So some pretty good fishing going on up there. All right. By the way, down in Puerto Vallarta, John Granados, I forgot to mention, he had a nice marlin, sent a photo in to us. He was fishing Puerto Vallarta. I think he had some yellowtail to go along with it. I just thought I'd throw that in before I get to the coast and the surf fishing. So moving up and down the coast down there in San Diego, Premier still picking away at the sand bass. Lighter line will definitely make your life a lot easier when you're fishing for bass. I like 12-pound. If you're fishing around structure, that can be very dangerous. So those nasty, dangerous neighborhoods, you want to probably bump it up, fish 25-pound. But, like lead heads and dropper loops working really, really well there. Moving up, lots of bass action out of Dana. A lot of shorts for the most part. And right offshore there, they've got dorado, and that is going to turn on at some point in time. Moving up here, if you look around, oh, by the way, down there in La Jolla the other day, beautiful fish for Tommy Aranda from San Diego. He had this big, beautiful calico bass fishing around Point Loma on one of Greg Silk's Mantis baits. Really, really nice fish. All right, moving up here, a lot of private boaters are doing really well on sand bass and calico bass. Sport boats, mostly sculpin, a few bass here and there. And then up there in the bay, Redondo boats, they have good rockfish, but occasional shot of sea bass, like one or two occasionally, and then some bass in there. Same thing out of Marina del Rey. And then up there in the Channel Islands, our barracuda are still around. It's inconsistent, however, but the Island Spirit has some good barracuda fishing, really good at times, and then other times they skedaddle off into the sunset. Surface iron is the way to go. Santa Barbara, the Stardust, Coral Sea, doing pretty darn well. Also on the rockfish as the winds are subsiding and giving us a little bit of a break. All right, my friends, it is looking good. Don't forget, in the show description, you can check out our final charters of the year. August 19th looms as our redemption day on board the Malihini. Can't wait to see Travis Bright and so many other great guys on that trip. Really, really looking forward to it as we have a really wonderful bunch of people who fish with us. And same thing on the Amigo, August the 31st, and then 2 fall trips on the Pride. Man, those are going to be good. Look in the show description. Send me a text. Give me a call, whatever it is you need to do. and we'll get you all up to par. All right, my friends, really, really interesting stuff going on. Remember that thresher shark that rolled up on the beach here? They're trying to ascertain why that thresher shark rolled up on the beach. Brandon Cassar saying that he is really full of wonder about that. Well, it probably ate way too much grunion. And you know how you are like when you sit on the couch with your gut extended out with a clicker? You ate too much turkey on Thanksgiving? I'm thinking he was looking for the clicker here on the beach. I think problem solved. All right, everybody, have a great day. As always, it's a pleasure to be with you here on the Morning Briefing. Freshwater morning briefings will start in September along with these. I can't thank you enough. 700,000 views, zooming toward 1 million, and I owe that all to you. Thanks again, my friends. Have a great day. I'll see you again soon.